guys. This is Ankush here from Alif Consulting. I'm working as an Azure Solution Specialist. Today we are going to talk about Azure Managed Disk. Now let's first understand what exactly the Azure Managed Disk is. Azure Managed Disk is the similar to the physical disk which we eventually have with the dedicated servers or the laptop, but in the case of Azure Cloud, it's purely a virtualized disk, and it came from the backend storage and attached with the all the virtual machines. Then Azure Managed Disk have majorly three types of performance available in the Azure. So one is called the SSD and then the SDD. SDD also have two levels of performance, which is a standard SDD and premium SDD. So all of these types of disks which are available in the Azure are differentiated based on the performance. Now here is some of the benefits of Azure Managed Disk. Is highly durable and available. It's scalable, integrated with the availability set, integrated with the availability zone, and it support all the disk backups and the Azure backup. So if we have any Azure Managed Disk attached with the any VM, we can take the disk snapshot and the disk Azure backups as well through the recovery vault. Here is a comparison between all the four types of disk which is available on the Azure, like ultra disks, premium disks, standard STD, and then standard STD. So all of them I have a different scenarios to- for to use those kind of disks. Let's take an example of SSD. So SSD is basically specifically used for IO intensive workload. So if we are running any kind of SQL databases, any kind of oracles, or any kind of applications which require a more IOPS to for the performance, we can go ahead and have the SSD attached with the machines to get that kind of IOPS. And all of these four disks types have their own maximum disk size and our maximum throughputs and maximum IOP limits. Just one thing is which I want to mention here, that Azure disk are basically have a different plans according to the sizing. So for the premium SSD, it start with P1, P P P1, P4, P10, P20, P30, and all of those disk types have a different types of IOPS, maximum throughput, and the sizing limitations. So we'll show you in the demo. Now here is the redundancy types are available for Azure Disk. So we have two types of redundancy. One is called the LRS and GRS. We already have covered in the Azure storage account, but I'll let you know again. So LRS is basically have a three copies in the within a single data center, and in the GRS it's have a three copies across the region and the minimum three data centers. So this is how a performance looks like for the Azure Disk. So if you see, like we have a limitations of the sizing and the IOPS limitation which is there. So it's basically connect with the backend storage account or the backend physical storage account to the dedicated network, and all of this IOPS are basically achieved through the dedicated connection, which is basically used between the virtual disk to the backend storage account. So eventually, with the disk encryption, we have basically three types of disk encryption for the Azure Managed Disk. First is the Azure Disk Encryption, then second one is the server-side encryption, and third one is the encryption at the host. So Azure Disk Encryption is basically a default feature which we can use to encrypt the disks. For Windows, actually, it's used the BitLocker, and for the Linux VM, it's used the dmcrypt, which is one of the Linux options available to encrypt the VMs. The server-side encrypt is also referred as the encryption as a rest or the storage encryption. So it's automatically encrypt all the data which is in the managed disk. So there's a two types of encryption by default we have. So one encryption is basically from the server side, which is automatically get enabled, and the second one is basically the Azure Disk Encryption, which basically we need to enable it, and we have to enable the encryption of the VM, and which on the VM, and when we enable that encryption, it automatically use a BitLocker or dmcrypt to encrypt the volumes. Now third one is basically encryption as the host. So it's basically something which happen on the host, and it ensure like whatever the data is being stored on the VM or on the disk is automatically get encrypted. So by default, whenever we create a VM or whenever we create a disk, uh, all the disks are being encrypted at the host, but they are not encrypted with the SSC. So server-side encryption is something which we need to enable. Now I'll show you the demo how exactly you can go ahead and create the disk, how you can attach that with the VM, or how you can take the snapshot. So I am in my demo subscription, and I am logged in with my one of my demo account. So if I already have a one machine created, and this machine is basically running with server operating system. Now one important thing which you need to make sure, like all the VM size doesn't support this, the premium disks or premium managed disk or premium SSD. So there is a specific size or the specific series are there which is support the managed disk and the premium disk. Sorry, so specifically I'm talking about the premium disk. So if we go with the standard SSD, they are supported with all of the VM size, but if we need to use the premium or ultra SSD, they are specifically supported with the specific size. So that's something we can go ahead and check it in the size. If we go in the size, we can do a filtering here. We can add a filter. We can do to the premium disks, supported or not supported. If we click on OK, we would be able to see it's giving us the all the list of the disk, which is all the list of the VM size we supported the premium disk. So if you see all the VMs which have a S in their size, so D2S, D4S, DAS, F2S, F4S, and F8, all of them are supported with the premium disk. And then if we filter this short, and if we change it to the not supported, or if we click on OK, it's going to give us all the options which are available for the which is not supported with the premium disk. So as of now it's showing me like there's no size are available because my VM is being created with the premium disk. So so this is my premium disk which has been created, and it's the 127 of GB of the size and maximum IOPS 500 IOPS. So this is the default size with the 127 which has been created. For the Windows it is create a 127 GB of the disk, managed disk. For the Linux it's create the 30 GB of the managed disk. Okay, so now to create the disk, what we need to do, we need to go on the home. We have two options, either we can click on create a resource or either we can search here. So let's click on create a resource and then type manage disk, and then you have these options to create. Okay, so this is for private link, this is not the correct option which I'm looking for. Okay, let's type the disk and see if that's work. Okay, so we have, yep, this one here. So this is the option we need to select to create the managed disk. Click on create. So when you click on create, you have to fill few information which you required here. Now first of all you need to define the resource group. So I'm using the Alif demo machine resource group in which I already have my VM running, and I need to define the disk uh, name. So I am putting a demo disk. I'm defining a reason. So do I need to put in the availability zone? So we have a 3 availability zone. So we are going to talk about availability set and availability zone in our uh, next videos. So availability zone or availability we can select here. So availability zone is the high available option which allow us to replica or create a replica of the resource to the another data center in the region. So in one region we can have a minimum two availability zone. So I'm not selecting anything here, so then I'm need to select what exactly it's going to be. Either it's going to be for the storage account, if I've created the any page blob there, either I'm going to create it from the snapshot, or either I'm creating for any disk restore point, or either I'm creating as a blank. So in my case I'm doing it a blank, so I am selecting it none. Then here if you go to the sizing, you would see all the tier when you click on change. So you see we have a multiple disk here like P1, P2, P3, P10, P16, sorry, P15, P20, P30, P40. So all of them have their size limitation which we can't go beyond, and then they have provisioned IOPS, provision throughput, and on how many VMs we can attach. So there is also a good option here in the Azure with the manage this, like we can have them attached to the multiple VMs as well. So I'm just going with P4. Click on OK, click on next, then you have the option. So encryption at rest with the platform managed key. It's something which is called the encryption on host, and we can have this with the managed key if we want to use my own keys. So this is basically the first option is the default option in which we don't need to manage any kind of encryption key, but we want to do by our own, we want to use our own keys to manage the encryption, we can use this second option as well. Or if we want to double the encryption with both way, we can do that as well. So I'm selecting as a default option. I'm not doing any kind of network option, so I'm just putting as a default. I'm not enabling any kind of share, so I don't want to attach it with the multiple VM, so I'm picking is no. But if I want to attach it with the multiple VM, I can go ahead and select to the yes, and then I can see how many maximum share I want to do. Next, next, and click on create. So once I submitted the deployment, it's going to take a few seconds to deploy the resources, and I need to just wait for a few seconds here to get the resource deployed. Once the deployment is done, what exactly is going to be, I need to go back in the resource group where I have deployed the the managed disk. I need to wait for some time. So now you can see the deployment has been successfully completed. So if I click here and refresh it, I would be able to see one more managed disk has been created here. Okay, so it's not coming up, so we need to give him a few seconds, and okay, that looks a little bit crazy. Okay, let me go ahead and refresh the complete page. Okay, I don't want to read this one as of now. So if you see, I have this demo disk is created. So if I click here, I have a lot of options here. Okay, so in the configuration, if I go into the configuration, I can enable on-demand bursting, which I don't have allowed it, but this is something which is a very useful when we want to have a maximum IOPS, and to in case of any issue, in case of we want to have a better performance from the disk, so we can enable it, but this will be going to charge you extra based on the IOPS which we have consumed. Now if we want to change the sizing, we have an option here. We can select the size and we can resize it, but in case of we want to go with the smaller size but we need to have extra IOPS, or we need to have a more IOPS, we can change, select the performance tier as well. Here in the performance tier we can click on resize. So as soon as we click on resize, the disk will be get resized to the size, and the IOPS will be limited to 7500 IOPS and 250 Mbps throughput. Now if you want to change anything in the encryption, we can go ahead and click it from here as well. Okay, now another thing is, if we want to create the snapshot of this disk, so what we need to do, we just need to click on create snapshot, and we just need to define the name, what exactly we want to do, and what kind of storage we want to do. Is going to be standard, premium, or John Redundant. We need to just define the name here, click on next. Encryption I'm putting as a default. No changes required in the networking, and review and create. So as soon as we click on create, it will go ahead and create a one snapshot of this disk as well. Okay, so it's in progress. Now another thing is, I want to basically want to mention here that pricing of managed disk is basically based on what you have provisioned. So if you're using an unmanaged disk, or if you're using an Azure storage account, your pricing is based on what you have used for the standard disk, but for premium disk is again based on the what you have provisioned in the case of managed or unmanaged. But in the case of managed, for standard SDD and standard SDD, it's also based on what you have provisioned. So we can see the pricing on the Azure calculator. If we go to the Azure calculator, we just need to wait for just 1 second. We can go into the calculator, and we need to go to the Azure storage account. We need to select the type, And here we can have, you see we have 4 tiers. We can select the tiers, and we can see the pricing here as well. So the pricing is something is basically based on the region. So as of now it's in the East US. So in East US it's in the $19.71. And but if you want to see into the another region, you can go ahead and select that region. It will be going to show the price according to the region. Now another thing is, if you want to change the currency type, you can come on the bottom and you can change it to the currency type to INR, and the other popular currency types are also available here. Now another thing is how you can attach this created VM, sorry, the created disk which you have already created to the existing VM. So if to attach that disk, what you need to do, you need to come on the disk, click on the disk, go to the disks, and then you have a two option. Either you can go ahead and create a new disk, or either you can go ahead and attach the existing disk as well. So I am attaching the existing disk, so I need to select the second option, click here, select the name, and click on save. So another thing is, this logical unit number are basically unique to the every disk. So you need to make sure whenever you are attaching any existing disk, it should have a different uh, a logical unit number. By default it's automatically give you assign the number automatically, but in some cases if you want to change, you have your option to change this as well. But if you're having a two disk attached with the same logical unit number, that will not be get attached inside the VM. So click on save. As soon as this update is finished, this disk will be get attached to the VM, and then you need to go inside the VM in the disk manager. You need to initiate, or you need to create the volume from the disk, but that is only applicable to the new disk or the disk which has been never attached to the any VM. But if you have any existing disk which is already attached to the VM, or you are moving to the, or you are removing deattaching the disk from the existing VM, you want to attach it to the another VM, in that case you don't need to go in the disk management, and you don't need to reinitiate the disk or create the volume from there. So that's what I have for you in the demo. I hope you like the demo. So that's what I have today for you. Please feel free to like the video, subscribe, and feel free to reach us in case of you need any help in Azure cloud, or you want to migrate your workload, or you are looking for any kind of migration from the on-premise to the Azure cloud. Thank you.